All right, let's jump right in today. We're going to do a deep dive into belief
Oh,
systems
cool.
with using actually Jordan B. Peterson's Maps of Meaning as kind of our source material.
Awesome.
We'll be using excerpts from it, and we're going to try to really understand how belief shapes how we understand the world
Okay.
and how that those beliefs then impact morality and behavior and all kinds of things. So get ready to unpack some serious brain food, I think.
Absolutely. And what's really fascinating is, Peterson starts with his own kind of personal crisis of faith. He was disillusioned with his political ideology, and he was, very much impacted by the Cold War's nuclear threat.
Hmm.
And he was wrestling with the question, what could possibly be worth the risk of total annihilation?
Right. Yeah, that's a question that I think gets right to the core of what really matters, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. But it sounds like his journey into belief actually really kicked off with a rather unsettling experience. Something about an encounter in a prison.
That's right. He was, doing some research and met a man who, on the surface, seemed completely harmless. Peterson even described him as small, thin, and bearded, but this unassuming individual was a murderer. He had killed two policemen in cold blood.
Wow. I can only imagine how jarring that must have been
Yeah.
to come face to face with that.
It shook him to his core. This encounter pushed Peterson to grapple with the dark side of human nature. He wanted to understand the capacity for evil. And he started this exploration by diving into his own dreams, using the works of Freud and Jung as guides.
Dreams as a starting point for understanding belief systems. That's fascinating. What did he take from those dream explorations?
Well, he was really drawn to Jung's ideas about myth and religion. Jung saw dreams as a window into the unconscious mind, a realm teeming with profound truths about the human psyche. And Peterson believed that by analyzing his dreams, he could gain insights into the hidden forces shaping his own beliefs and behaviors, and by extension, those of humanity as a whole.
Okay. So that's kind of the personal journey, but Peterson also dives into how we experience the world, right? Something about the world being both a form for action and a place of things. It sounds like he's getting at different ways that we perceive reality.
Exactly. He argues that we perceive the world in two fundamental ways. One is the objective world, the realm of science and facts. You can think of it as the place of things. It's about what we can observe and measure. But we also experience the world as a stage for action, driven by our values, emotions, and stories. It's less about what is and more about what ought to be.
I see what you mean. Like my phone is a thing in the objective world.
Right.
But how I use it, the apps I choose, the people I connect with, that's all shaped by, my values and the stories I tell myself about my digital life, right?
Precisely, yeah.
Yeah.
You've hit the nail on the head. Peterson believes that these two ways of seeing the world, the objective and the narrative, have been unnecessarily pitted against each other.
Okay.
He says both are essential for understanding the human experience.
So it's less about choosing one over the other and more about recognizing the interplay between them.
Right.
That makes a lot of sense. And I think that leads perfectly into what Peterson calls maps of meaning.
Yes.
Could you unpack that concept for us?
Yeah, so think of it this way. We use physical maps to navigate the world.
Hmm.
Peterson proposes that we also have maps of meaning, mental models that guide our behavior and shape our understanding of the world. These maps help us make sense of the present and anticipate the future. They're influenced by everything from our personal experiences to the cultural narratives that we've absorbed.
So our maps of meaning are like internal compasses.
Yes.
Constantly being recalibrated by new experiences and the stories that we encounter. But Peterson also talks about the role of the unknown in all of this. How does that fit in?
So the unknown is, a key driver in shaping our belief systems. Think about it. The unknown can be unsettling,
Right.
because it challenges our existing knowledge and sense of order.
Right.
But that very fear and anxiety can fuel exploration and the creation of new knowledge.
Yeah.
We're constantly striving to make sense of the unknown.
Yeah.
And that's where belief systems come in.
Right. It's like that classic fight or flight response, but on a cognitive level.
Exactly.
We're wired to either retreat from the unknown or to try to conquer it. Peterson uses the broken elevator scenario to illustrate this, right?
Exactly, to illustrate this idea. Yeah, imagine you're in a high-rise building and the elevator suddenly breaks down. That familiar, predictable environment instantly becomes unpredictable, even potentially dangerous. The unknown forces you to reevaluate your assumptions and come up with new ways of thinking and acting, in essence, updating your mental maps.
Now that you mention it, I remember a time when,
Oh, yeah, that's a great example.
yeah,
Yeah, it really shows how those unexpected events can really shake up our maps of meaning.
it definitely made me rethink a few things. But let's get back to Peterson. So our beliefs help us navigate the unknown, but they also have real world consequences, right? How does Peterson address that?
Well, he argues that belief systems can be incredibly powerful, shaping our actions and choices for both good and bad. He actually uses his own experience with utopian socialism as an example.
Okay.
He was initially drawn to it, but he became disillusioned when he realized that ideology, no matter how well-intentioned, often oversimplifies complex realities.
It's like putting on blinders. You only see what the ideology allows you to see.
Exactly. Peterson cautions us against rigid, inflexible belief systems. When we cling to beliefs that no longer serve us or refuse to question our assumptions, we can get trapped in self-deception and harmful behavior.
He uses a pretty intense metaphor to illustrate this danger, the tyrannical father archetype who devours his sons.
Okay.
Can you break that down for us?
Yeah, so think back to those ancient myths we discussed. The tyrannical father represents the shadow side of authority, the potential for power to become corrupt and destructive. When this archetype dominates, it stifles creativity, individuality, and progress. It's like a dictator who demands absolute obedience and crushes any dissent.
So it's a warning about blind obedience, whether to a person, an ideology, or even a rigid set of beliefs. We need to be willing to question.
Absolutely. Peterson argues that we have a responsibility to critically examine our beliefs, to challenge them, and to be open to revising them based on new information and experiences. This is crucial for personal growth and avoiding those negative consequences we talked about.
It makes you wonder, how do you know when it's time to reevaluate a deeply held belief? It's got to be tough to let go of something that's been a core part of your identity for so long.
You're right, it's not always easy. But Peterson suggests paying attention to persistent feelings of frustration, disappointment, or feeling stuck in a rut. These can be signs that our current maps of meaning are no longer serving us well.
Those negative emotions can actually be valuable signals. Who knew?
Yeah, it's like your inner compass is telling you it's time to reorient yourself. These feelings can be invitations to explore new perspectives and possibilities.
That's a helpful way to look at it. But speaking of difficult emotions, Peterson also delves into the concept of evil, right? I know he draws heavily on his experiences in a Soviet prison camp to explore this.
Yes, those experiences deeply shaped his understanding of the human capacity for darkness. He shares a chilling story about a prisoner who becomes a brutal guard, illustrating how power can corrupt even the seemingly innocent.
That must have been incredibly disturbing to witness firsthand.
It was. And it led Peterson to introduce the concept of the shadow, that dark, unconscious part of human nature that we all possess.
The shadow, it's like our own personal Darth Vader lurking within us, right? But it sounds like Peterson isn't saying we should deny or repress this part of ourselves.
Exactly. He argues that repressing the shadow only makes it more dangerous. The key is to be aware of it, acknowledge its existence, and learn to manage it constructively.
So it's less about good versus evil and more about understanding the complex interplay of light and shadow within each of us.
You've got it. And this is where Peterson introduces the archetype of the liar. The liar represents our tendency to avoid uncomfortable truths and suppress information that challenges our beliefs.
So the liar is like the shadow's PR agent spinning a narrative to protect us from facing the uncomfortable reality.
That's a brilliant way to put it. And while this avoidance might offer temporary comfort, it ultimately leads to self-deception and a distorted view of reality. Think about it. How many times have you told yourself a little white lie to avoid an awkward situation or a difficult conversation?
More than I'd like to admit, probably. But what's the bigger danger here? Why does Peterson connect this to something as horrific as the Holocaust?
He sees the Holocaust as a stark example of what can happen when we collectively succumb to the liar archetype. It's a reminder that ignoring or suppressing truth can have catastrophic consequences. Peterson asks a chilling question. Hitler was human. Stalin too, Idi Amin too. What does that say about being human?
That's a truly sobering question. It forces us to acknowledge that we all have the capacity for both good and evil. It's a heavy thought, but essential for understanding the complexities of human nature, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. But Peterson doesn't leave us in a state of despair.
Yeah.
He offers a path forward through what he calls the hero's journey.
Okay, so even after confronting our capacity for darkness, there's still hope for redemption and positive change. Tell me more about this hero's journey idea.
Peterson believes the hero's journey is an archetypal pattern of transformation embedded in our collective unconscious. It's a story of facing challenges, overcoming obstacles, and emerging from the struggle stronger and wiser. Think of classic myths and stories like Star Wars or The Lord of the Rings. The heroes all face trials and tribulations, but they ultimately emerge transformed.
Those stories definitely resonate with something deep within us. But how does Peterson connect this to real life?
He uses the example of the Buddha's enlightenment. The Buddha leaves his comfortable life, confronts suffering and the meaninglessness of existence, and achieves enlightenment. But what's truly remarkable is his choice to return to the world and share his wisdom with others.
It's like he's saying that true heroism isn't just about personal growth, but also about using that growth to make a positive impact on the world.
Exactly. And Peterson emphasizes the importance of self-knowledge in this process. He quotes Solzhenitsyn, who said, "Know thyself. There is nothing that so aids and assists the awakening of omniscience within us as insistent thoughts about one's own transgressions, errors, mistakes."
So, confronting our flaws and limitations is actually crucial for personal growth and for making a positive impact on the world. It's like that saying, the only way out is through.
Precisely. Peterson introduces a term, metanoia, to describe this process. It's more than just changing behavior. It's a profound change of heart and mind, a complete shift in our understanding of ourselves and the world.
I'm starting to see how all these pieces fit together, confronting the shadow, embarking on the hero's journey, experiencing metanoia. But this whole process of transformation sounds incredibly challenging. Are there any tools or practices that can help us along the way?
That's a great question, and it leads us to another fascinating aspect of Peterson's work, the concept of alchemy as a metaphor for psychological transformation.
Alchemy. Like turning lead into gold. How does that relate to personal growth?
Remember the alchemists were obsessed with transforming base metals into gold? Peterson sees this as a symbolic representation of refining and purifying the soul, turning our weaknesses into strengths and limitations into opportunities. It's about recognizing the potential for growth and transformation, even within our flaws.
So instead of trying to eliminate our weaknesses, we should embrace them as raw materials for personal growth. That's a powerful reframe.
Exactly. It's about recognizing that our shadow side isn't inherently bad. It's simply a part of us that needs to be understood and integrated into our wholeness.
This reminds me of something you mentioned earlier about the unconscious mind and how it influences our beliefs and behaviors. Does this tie into the alchemical process as well?
Absolutely. Peterson draws heavily on Jung's ideas about the unconscious, particularly the concept of opposing forces within us. Think about it like this. We all have masculine and feminine principles at play within our psyches, and these forces are often in tension. The process of individuation, of becoming a whole person, involves confronting and integrating these opposing energies.
So it's not about choosing one over the other, but about finding a balance between them.
That's the goal. Peterson believes that this alchemical process of integration often involves confronting what he calls taboo experiences. These are the things we tend to avoid or repress, the difficult emotions, the uncomfortable truths, the parts of ourselves that we deem unacceptable.
I'm noticing a theme here. It seems like Peterson is constantly encouraging us to confront the things we fear, whether it's the unknown, the shadow, or these taboo experiences. It's like he's saying that real growth happens outside of our comfort zone.
You're absolutely right. He sees this willingness to face the difficult and uncomfortable as essential for personal growth, the renewal of belief, and the creation of a more meaningful life. And I think that segues perfectly into our final point. How do we actually put all of these ideas into practice?
That's a great question. We've covered so much ground, from the nature of belief to the shadow self and the hero's journey. But where do we go from here? What's the takeaway for our listeners?
Yeah, it really is about, taking all this and trying to figure out, well, what do we do with it? How do we use it?
Yeah, that's a great question. We've covered so much ground,
Yeah.
from the nature of belief to the shadow self to the hero's journey. But where do we go from here? What's the takeaway for our listeners? What are some actionable insights that they can apply to their own lives?
Well, I think, one of the most important things to remember is that, belief systems aren't static. They're dynamic, evolving structures that are constantly being shaped by our experiences, relationships, and interactions with the world.
So it's not about finding the the right belief system,
Right.
clinging to it for dear life, but rather about cultivating a flexible and adaptable approach to belief.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Peterson, he emphasizes the importance of questioning our assumptions, testing our beliefs against reality, and being open to revising them as we learn and grow.
He also talks a lot about the importance of interest, of following our genuine curiosity and passions. How does that tie into the renewal of belief?
Well, think about it. Interest is the spark that ignites the fire of exploration and discovery. When we're genuinely interested in something, we're more likely to engage with it fully, ask questions, seek out new perspectives, and be open to learning and growth. It's like a key that unlocks hidden doors in our minds, leading us to new insights and a deeper understanding of ourselves and the world.
So it's like our interests are guiding us toward, a richer, more fulfilling experience of life. And it sounds like Peterson sees this as a powerful antidote to negativity and despair.
Absolutely, yeah. He sees interest as a driving force behind creativity, innovation, and the creation of a more meaningful life. It's about tapping into that innate human desire to learn, grow, and make sense of the world around us.
This has been such an illuminating conversation. It's clear that the journey of exploring belief is a lifelong process, one that requires courage, honesty, and a willingness to embrace the unknown.
Absolutely, yeah. And it's a journey well worth taking.
One thing that really struck me throughout this whole deep dive is Peterson's emphasis on personal responsibility.
Hmm.
He's constantly reminding us that we have the power to choose our beliefs, to shape our maps of meaning, and to create a life that aligns with our values. It's both empowering and a bit daunting, wouldn't you say?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. It's a call to consciousness, an invitation to become more aware of the forces shaping our beliefs, and to take ownership of the stories we tell ourselves about the world.
And it's a reminder that this exploration of belief is an ongoing process, a lifelong journey of discovery and growth.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah, there's always more to learn, more to explore, and more to discover about ourselves and the world around us.
Well, I want to thank you for taking this deep dive with me. It's been an incredible learning experience.
The pleasure was all mine. You've been a fantastic conversation partner, and your insights and reflections have truly enriched our exploration.
And to our listeners, we encourage you to continue exploring these ideas on your own. Dive into Peterson's work, engage in thoughtful discussions with others, and most importantly, pay attention to those sparks of interest that ignite your curiosity and passion.
Yeah. Remember, even small acts of courage, integrity, and truth-seeking can have a ripple effect and contribute to a better world.
As Peterson reminds us, one man who stops lying can bring down a tyranny. So go out there, embrace your inner hero, and let your unique light shine. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time, keep questioning, keep exploring, and keep believing in the power of the human spirit to create a more meaningful and fulfilling world.